Robotik in der Industrie. Der Podcast mit Helmut Schmidt und Robert Weber. Guten Morgen, liebe Sorgen. Nein, ihr habt natürlich keine Sorgen, denn ihr kriegt jetzt die wichtigsten Robotik-News immer montags um 6 Uhr von Helmut und mir. Hier ist der Podcast Robotik in der Industrie mit unserem neuen Format. Und Partner unseres neuen Robotik-News-Formats ist Unchained Robotics. Wir sagen vielen herzlichen Dank und Grüße nach Paderborn. Willkommen zum Robotik-Häppchen in der Kalenderwoche 41. Es ist gerade etwas mau, wenn es um News aus der Robotik geht. Deshalb heute nur ein paar News und dann eine längere Geschichte im Häppchen. Dazu später mehr. Starten wir mit den News. In den USA wird über die neue Robotik-Roadmap diskutiert und die Themen ähneln doch sehr stark der deutschen Diskussion. Es braucht mehr Geld, ein zentrales Institut und KI soll eine wichtigere Rolle in der Robotik spielen. Aber es geht auch um die Ausbildung der Menschen und die Rolle neuer Wettbewerber aus Asien. Interessant ist ein Zitat: Heute ist uns der Rest der Welt voraus. Wir müssen die Ressourcen, die wir haben, für Wettbewerbsfähigkeit und Technologieführerschaft organisieren, sagt Henrik Christensen von Contextual Robotics. Er ist einer der Co-Autoren des Reports. Und wir bleiben in den USA. Kaum einer wird sich jetzt wundern, die US-Armee hat mindestens einen Roboterhund mit einem Geschützturm und mit künstlicher Intelligenz in den Nahen Osten geschickt, um ihn als neue Fähigkeit zur Bekämpfung von Drohnen für US-Soldaten zu testen, wie Militärangehörige bestätigten. Zurück in die zivile Welt. Dexory hat eine Series B mit $80 Millionen für autonome Roboter abgeschlossen. Das Startup aus dem Vereinigten Königreich hat seine autonomen Lagerroboter im März 2023 auf den Markt gebracht. Seitdem soll ein großes Wachstum stattgefunden haben. Dexory spricht von einer 5- bis 10-fachen Steigerung in den letzten 12 Monaten. 60% davon stammen derzeit aus Großbritannien und Europa, die anderen 40% aus den USA. Mittlerweile werden die autonomen Roboter inklusive dem Betriebssystem laut Dexory in rund 50 Lagern auf der ganzen Welt eingesetzt. Die Branchen reichen dabei von Logistik über Pharmazie, Fertigung und Automobilbau bis hin zur Luft- und Raumfahrt. 50 Roboter in einem Jahr. Chapeau. Und dann haben wir noch ein paar Event-Ankündigungen. Am 15. Oktober gibt es ein Webinar von Fruitcore zum Thema Kleben und Dosieren. Link ist in den Shownotes. Wandelbots lädt zum Launch-Event nach Dresden ein. Termin ist der 4. November, Link in den Shownotes. Ihr merkt selber, die News sind in dieser Woche rar gesät. Deshalb haben wir uns noch was Besonderes ausgedacht. Wir haben uns einfach ein Interview für euch geklaut beim Industrial AI Podcast. Robert sprach mit Bas Conan über die KI und Robotikstrategie von Wanderlande. This is the second episode of our Eindhoven special and my guest is Bas Conan from Vanderlande. Hello Bas, welcome to the Industrial AI Podcast.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for inviting me.
Is Bas Conan, is it right pronounced?
Bas Koenen.
Bas Conan. Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
Bas
no,
Coenen.
it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Okay. Before we start, please introduce yourself briefly to the listeners. Bas.
So I'm working at Vanderlande for about 10 years now. I have a background in mechanical engineering with a master's from the University of Eindhoven. At the time, specializing mostly in robotics, autonomous vehicles. My first 5 years I spent at Vanderlande working on integration engineering, and actually the past 5 years on innovation management. And most recently as an innovation manager responsible for our innovation strategy, where on a day-to-day basis, we also engage a lot on topics around or evolving around AI.
Yeah, we will talk about that. So for all our listeners, Vanderlande is a general contractor of warehouses and conveyor belts in airports. Is that right? Yeah.
Not only that, so we're a systems integrator. Indeed, we work in 3 market segments, airports, parcel and warehousing. So at airports, you basically might know us. Well, you don't really see us because the majority of our systems are actually below the surface, or in the basement. Basically, our systems do the handling of your bags the moment that you check in.
But I can see the logo on the baggage claim, right?
Yeah, so it's all the way up to the reclaim process in the end, and it's even extending more and more, even towards the airplane. For parcel, we do the automation of distribution centers, so with customers like UPS, DHL, FedEx. And for warehousing, it is about the automation of warehousing processes for, among other, general merchandise, food, fashion. That's basically our business, and it is indeed conveying, sorting, robotics, AI is in there. So in the end, it's all about logistic process automation.
So it's material handling or automation material handling.
Yeah, and that material can take various shapes and sizes, but in the end, it's about logistic process automation.
Yeah, yeah. So we have pre-sorted the podcast a bit and want to talk about 4 steps or 4 main topics. The first topic is the part of integration of AI solutions, because you mentioned you are a system integrator, and how big is the complexity for Van der Lande to integrate AI solutions in your warehouses, in your automation processes, in your material handling, in the material flow? What do you integrate? How do you integrate what you are looking for, and what is maybe difficult, what is not solved yet?
Quite a question.
Yeah.
I think for us, it in the end always starts with our customers. So looking at the customer problems that we have and how we can solve those, right? So how can we better enable the business of our customers? I think that is always a starting point. And next, we try to look at, okay, how can technology fit in there? And I think with AI at the moment, from a systems integrator perspective, we've seen plenty of cases already dating years back. But as a system integrator, we always try to see, okay, is the technology ready enough to deliver? And then we try to integrate. And as a systems integrator, we always, in these cases, also often work with third parties, which is especially, I think, useful also with technologies that can go really fast, like with AI. And I think the most recent examples, or the most dominant examples that we have, are actually the application of AI in the field of machine vision, where I think a lot of our systems rely on visual inspection of the material that we are handling. And there we already a couple of years started to see a big shift in let's say, traditional machine vision algorithms towards AI trained systems for detection, recognition, classification. And those examples are getting more and more developed at the moment, integrated in at customer sites. And I think there you also see, of course, the complexity in that sense, that the moment that you introduce AI, you of course also put something in the field that is to be maintained in a different way. So also a couple of years ago.
So retraining the model and stuff like that, yeah?
Yeah, so MLOps basically, yeah. So putting machine learning into operation. Yeah, I think in that sense also changes. You immediately, I think, at least at that time, we recognize that immediately there's a huge potential, but it also requires a big mindset shift, because almost all business capabilities that are connected in the end to the delivery of such a technology to the customer need to be looking at it in a different way than they had before.
I want to come back to your customer, because from my point of view, do they care whether they have AI or not, as long as the parcels are in the truck or in the plane? Or do they ask you, is it AI bus, or is it traditional machine learning, or is it without machine learning? So are they really curious about this topic?
I think it lives among customers.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not indeed that they request us to deliver something with AI. It's indeed, as you say, in the end, they want a solution for their problem. And that is, I think, what we are always focused on, and why I also mentioned that is the starting point for us always. And next, we look at, can AI basically solve this problem, because it has a huge potential, but only if it also can fulfill it in the end. So yes, we start at the customer.
So you mentioned these ML ops, infrastructure, pipeline, stuff like that. How do you handle that?
At the moment, basically, the moment that we realized, okay, we did an innovation project there, so we explored the potential of, for example, applying machine vision with AI. The moment that we realized, okay, this is feasible, and we handed it over to our development center to productize this solution. We also realized that we needed to build up the same capability of MLOps in the development center. So first of all, we also started exploring there. So how should we do it? And afterwards, when we learned how to do it, we also basically transferred that learning into our development centers. But then we also, I think, ran quite quickly also into all kinds of questions, all kinds of challenges, as we realized that, so how do we keep training this algorithm with the customer data coming in, customer feedback coming in, who has the responsibility on site? So we've had quite a lot of discussions with our development teams on how to approach it. But in the end, indeed, it settled in the process, in the tooling that we use. So it's not an easy road, I would say, to take. But I think with this, always exploring first the alternatives that you have, and next, together with your stakeholders, deciding on what best fits was our solution moving this forward.
Can you describe how do you approach?
How we approach the MLOps topic?
Yeah.
Well, I would not say out of first hand, because that was really, or that is still really in our development centers. But it's I think we use quite a lot of tooling around this, also supplied by as part of the Microsoft Azure pipeline. Microsoft is also a strong development partner for us, and I think also in basically our training the people around it, also in using it, and also at the customer side, that they know how to use it, when to use it. I think that is in the end what we did there.
And how do you integrate a MLOps solution in your, what is it, warehouse management system, or how do you integrate the solutions like MLOps in this system?
Well, I think in the end you mean towards our customers?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we in the end also foresaw already quite some time ago is that our customers really need a digital portal to access this kind of technology in the end. So we have created a My Van der Landen portal, which is the portal by which a customer has access to the operations on site. And that is in the end where we need to integrate all these capabilities to make sure that also the customer can, where needed, get access to it.
I want to come back because from my point of view, when we talk about the future of automation companies and automation companies like Van der Lange, I think this MLOps business, the combination of domain knowledge combined with AI and infrastructure, knowing the customer, that you are a reliable partner, that you ensure that your solution will run, and that you deliver industrial grade AI applications, including updates, MLOps. Is that a new business? Is that maybe in case instead of selling more hardware, or what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's we do see our business shifting towards more software intensive solutions, more digitalization. And indeed, our customers still, of course, expect the same reliability as always. So that shift is still ongoing in our company, and it will keep going, I think, for the coming years. And that also should be, I think, supported by these kind of technologies. So we do see that, for example, in our technological developments, we have streams dedicated to building these kind of solutions and services towards our customers, and that is also, I think, what our customers expect from us in the end. So yes, there is a big shift, and I think it's also industry-wide happening. So more system integrators are making the shift towards much more software-intensive solutions.
What about data sharing or sharing data? Are your customers familiar with how to share data? Are they able to share data? What do you see there?
It's tricky.
Okay.
And I think we can recognize different types of customers in this. So I think we have customers that really are protective with their data. So they have typically also their own capabilities to make use of that data. And I think therefore also they are really geared towards developing their own solutions to get the most out of that data, to optimize their own processes. On the other end of the spectrum, you also have customers that really also rely, for example, on Van der Landen to provide them with those insights. And I think with those customers, it is easier to have the conversation about sharing data. and to, for example, generate insights out of that data. And that is a real spectrum. So, and I think that also varies. It can even vary per market segment. So, for example, we have very extensive service contracts with many of our customers.
Well, that's good for you, right?
Yes, and it's also allowing you, I think, to optimize the operation of a customer within that service contract. But there's also customers that do that service really themselves. So I think it's really about what type of customer you have in front of you, whether you can talk about data sharing in that sense, and also the level on which you share data, right? So is it at the level of a product, so really close to the equipment, or is it more operational data, really system-wide? Is, I think, another axis, if you will, that determines how much and how easily data can be shared.
So you mentioned when you are in the lead when it comes to service, when it comes to technical service in a warehouse, you are able to collect data. So you will have a huge data set of time series, right? You can have months, years of time series.
Yeah.
What do you do with these amount of data of time series for your drives and for your components? Do you have any ideas what to do with that?
Yes. Well, a lot of this is actually also at the moment under exploration because the potential of that is indeed huge. I think we already have seen quite a lot of good use cases on predictive maintenance of our equipment because there is indeed a vast amount of data that is being produced that we can use, I think, in a good way to predict whether certain equipment will fail and to do preventive maintenance in time for various pieces of equipment all across the segment. And that is also easier, I think, because on that level, we also own the data. Because it's really close to the equipment. But next, there's also, I think, on a more process level use cases where we are also looking into at the moment to for example find root causes of certain events. So especially, for example, warehousing business, complexity of warehousing systems is huge indeed. By far more complex if we would compare it, for example, to our airports or parcel business. And there also these AI techniques and the availability of data really allows us to, and that is what we're also will be exploring soon, is can we find the root cause of a certain event by using AI techniques and the data that is available earlier on in the process already identify and tackle the root cause to avoid that it causes more sort of side effects later on in the process. And this is, I think, one of those use cases which now suddenly becomes solvable, but still it starts with, and I think it always starts with, good data representations to be able to unlock it.
Can you share a little bit more details how you proceed with this concrete approach?
Which approach exactly do you mean?
The root cause approach?
Well, we're still intending to. We haven't really started the exploration yet on this, but what this is. So to just give an example, what can happen? So in a warehouse where order picking is being done, orders are being picked, and it can happen that certain orders are being delayed. If we analyze in real time delay of those orders and find which is for what might be, for example, an item in every order that is being delayed, we can find that that item might be the root cause of those delays. So, for example, that item is too low on stock, or it's too late restocked, or maybe it's in an aisle of our storage that is facing issues to retrieve it in time. But bringing that data together in a way that we analyze it by means of data analysis techniques with AI to find the root cause earlier on and have it run in real time in the control room allows the operators in the control room to spot those potential root causes earlier on and next focus basically their effort to resolve it as soon as possible. So this is one of those use cases that at the moment we're looking into, like, will it is it feasible? That's one. Is it desirable? So also does our customer also see it working in this way? Will it really solve their problem? Is it also one of the bigger problems that they really have in the control room today? And next also, is it viable? So how much faster will an operator really be able to detect and solve such a problem? So we try to look at all those three lenses when we start to explore these kind of use cases.
And the business model is also to relive you as a service provider, right? You save not directly money, but you save time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sometimes quite hard, of course, to quantify this because
Exactly.
it's very, I think, typical to then start looking at, okay, it makes an operator that much more efficient, so we will save X amount of operators on a yearly basis. But in the end, this is also, again, of course, the overall performance of a system, which is harder to measure, especially when you're in the early stages. But we do try together also with the for example, process engineers in this case that we will have at certain customer sites, and also, if possible, directly with customers to quantify this by building a minimum viable product that we can trial at a customer site to measure this also, because in the end, that is always a bit the challenge that we have. Our systems are at very large scales. And if we really want to get the certainty that it will work as a product, we need to also deal with that scale. So we can only test it internally up to very small scales, but we also need to rely on customer trials early stage to identify that viability, to be also sure that we build down all the risks that we need to build down before we actually start real product development.
But your currency is the package at the right time when the truck is there at the warehouse, right? The customer pays for that in the end.
Yeah, well, not yet in a as a service based model,
Yep.
but in the end, that is what our systems do. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then you can calculate a return on invest when you do root causes like that.
Yeah. So typically we make these kind of calculations to see, is there in the end a good business case, and that we do, of course, through also a lot of internal collaboration with our product managers. So with my team, we're working really on the innovation, so really on the front end, early stages. But we know that we also need to collaborate heavily with product management and also with the development teams in the end, if this turns into something that becomes a product.
So when we talk about warehouses or airports or stuff like that, these kind of buildings or this kind of warehouses a warehouse does not operate alone in the world. So you have a supplier, you have the shops, you want to sell something in the shops. So the warehouse maybe is in the middle of the whole supply chain. And what about thinking about demand forecasting for the warehouse? Because that would be very interesting from my point of view, that you can see what will come into the future and react on that. Or is that not a discussion at Van der Lande?
Oh, it definitely is. I think you're spot on with this. It's also one of the main, I think, AI capabilities that we foresee that can generate a lot of value. And again, this can happen on various levels. So I think you're fully right. These warehouses, also parcel distribution centers, and also airports, they're all part of a network, right? So there's incoming good, outgoing good, but they also go to a next spot into this chain. And I think there's a lot of potential in doing these demand-driven optimization techniques in the chain. But then again, the question is, do you also have the access to the data? Are all those parties willing to share their data in the end? And that is, I think, the tricky part, which is much more geared towards, do you have the ecosystem to make this happen?
And do you have it?
I think often it's not enabled yet to do it. So often I think it's about getting the trust in that ecosystem to share that data. But that is, I think, very, very hard to get done. And I think also, if you look at maybe more specifically to the parcel business, those parcel companies already have a network of their own, right? So it's also in their own best interest if they will figure out themselves how to do it. And I think companies like DHL, UPS, they are doing this themselves already, because there's a huge potential if they can connect these dots, basically. But for us also, even within the scope of Van der Lande today, we can do this, right? So also we can optimize the operations within the warehouse, within the airport, within that parcel distribution center, by just connecting to the warehouse management or enterprise resource planning systems of the customer. if we know also within our system what is coming, we can also optimize our own operations to better fill in the need and also better predict towards the outgoing process of the customer what will be the potential impact. And that is something that those use cases we will be definitely also focusing on more and more in the future. Whereas at the same time, and that is especially I think to the interest also of innovation strategy, so my scope is to see, is there also in the future solutions that Van der Lande might provide a future for Van der Lande in this optimization over the value chain? Is there a future for Van der Lande in it?
So we looked a bit into the future. What are you and your team currently working on, Bas? Give me 2 or 3 examples.
One, I think, interesting one for us at the moment is around applying AI assistant technology.
Oh, everybody is doing that.
Yeah, of course. in the control room.
Okay.
We have made a vision on how the control room of the future would look like. And in that vision we see, well, basically the control room could operate anything, whether it would be
autonomous.
Well, first of all, whether independent of the business that we
Okay.
would be in, it could look the same. It's the same challenge. But next, indeed, ultimately, it is also autonomous because we see step by step, we see automation coming in, and we see that next also the decisions that are being taken right now, data comes to the operator that will become much and more descriptive. Next, it can become prescriptive up to the point that it turns into decisions that are taken and processed automatically. Where we already see quite some value on the short term is if we, for example, take incident reports that are happening, for example, in an airport's control room, and that those incident reports are also fed to an LLM to make sure that next operators can make use of it, basically use the collective knowledge of all the other operators in that control room to find the right, maybe also root cause if you're, or the best way forward to solve an issue, and that is already where you see quite a nice potential for this technology. Also interesting, I think, with it is that you realize how easy it is suddenly to sort of cross the language barrier, because with just a flick of a button you could switch it to another language which might be more native to the person that is working at the moment. So this collective intelligence in such a control room is, I think, very interesting because it's a lot of information is being centralized there, but operators traditionally have quite a long learning curve. So at an airport control room, it takes about 1 to 2 years before a control room operator is really experienced and seasoned enough to handle all kinds of incidents. And we believe that if we can introduce this technology, and we're actually trialing it at the moment, that learning curve, that can be a lot shorter.
And maybe the LLM can translate alarms or warnings, because sometimes it's very crypto for beginners. What does it mean now? And maybe a LLM can then explain, so this means exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, exactly. So it could really guide you in the steps to take. And I think also the fact that it can, but that is also, of course, the tricky part next, that it can translate, given the context, what to do based on prior experience in a new situation is, of course, also powerful, but also, kind of tricky, because it could also start hallucinating up to the point that it comes up with a certain scenario.
How do you make it robust?
Yeah, exactly. And that is something I think, we're sort of at the moment also experiencing together with customers, which is, I think, really nice, because you also need to get, I think, at some point some hands-on experience and also the understanding of the user in the end. So how will it be used? How will the user react to this? And I think especially with generative AI, it has almost a direct interface with the user that needs to on the spot and also decide what to do with that information.
So the user wants explainability.
Yeah.
So the user needs to be informed how the model decides and why the solution provides this event or provides this idea, or is this a topic?
Exactly. Yeah. I think also with the new GPT releases, it's also easier, of course, with directly referring to the original source. I think also that is important, the explainability to enhance the learning.
But nobody will read this PDF, right?
No, but I think the moment, so if an incident happens, and of course there needs to be a quick, immediate response, but learning can also, of course, happen afterwards. And I think the explainability by also using the references to, okay, where was this advice coming from? What can we learn from it? Is also something that can happen at a slower time constant than the on-the-spot decision to intervene with the system in some way to solve the incident. But I think that this is, in that sense, really interesting technology where generative AI can already provide a good solution, a valuable solution to our customers. Second example,
Yeah, not Gen AI, please.
yeah, not Gen AI is, I think, mainly for that we use, for example, to classify what I mentioned already in the beginning. So classification of the material that we need to handle is, I think, crucial for us in next also the integration of other components in our systems. And this happens, we noticed, especially when we started to introduce robotics, so item picking, but also so in warehousing, but also picking of parcels, loading bags into containers that go into the airplane. It's all over the place. What we noticed the moment that we switched there from a human to a robot is that, yeah, robots cannot handle everything yet. So yeah, you cannot just simply swap them out. But as a systems integrator, we still can use robots, but then we really need to know what do we send to the robot, because we only want to send stuff to the robot that it can actually handle. Because if we don't, yeah, you know at some point you will get an intervention and a human needs to go to the workstation again to fix it. So that led also to the fact that we really needed to have classification in our systems to identify is this piece of material that we're handling here, is it can the robot handle this, yes or no? And we notice that very often it depends on the packaging material, the shape, the size, and with AI it opened up, I think, up the possibility to really start identifying this in a reliable way on the fly, such that we can really take that information and bring it forward to basically the robotic modules that we have, and also use our system design in such a way that we next also only basically send to the robot what it can pick. So with the technology, we now can, for example, take in airports, we can identify that it's a hard shell suitcase, it's a soft shell, it's a backpack, it's an odd shape. And based on that, we can next start to take decisions how the robot should handle it, if it should handle it at all.
But if you talk to the robotics manufacturers, or if you listen to them, I thought, I hear everything is solved in this field, and now you tell me, oh no, this is not solved.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. No, it's not. I think the point in the end is also what you mentioned in the beginning. It has to happen with a very high reliability. So that robot always needs to be able to solve it, and we know it is not possible yet to do it. So, and personally, I think it will be for a very long time. Also, because I think the challenge with robotics is it's not only the reliability, but it's also the speed with which it needs to do it. So there are many facets where in the end, I think the benchmark will always be the human picker, for example. Yeah, and before I think those robots will really get that level, that capability, it will take quite some time. And I think up to that time, having those classification abilities in the system allows you to use robots in a much more efficient way.
What's your third topic?
Maybe let's pick one which is more internal.
Yep.
So for our own processes.
Now a Gen AI use case.
Yeah, in the end, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there well, of course, we touched already on predictive maintenance, so it would not be fair to pick that one. But yeah, there I think more in terms of there is quite a lot of effort, for example, going into writing test cases, requirements, etc., which is most often pretty straightforward. And I think there Gen AI can do a lot. So basically on requirements management and translation to test cases, so test case automation, if you will, but also in the domain, for example, of manuals that need to be written, manuals that need to be interpreted. I think everywhere where you basically produce a bunch of text and need to interpret it in different ways, I think there it is really powerful. But then again, also I think crucial to really be in touch with your suppliers, right? Because we of course rely a lot also on content management systems, requirement management systems and tooling. And I think many of those providers are also scrambling to integrate Gen AI into their offerings, into their products, into their services. And I think it's especially there crucial to really be in close contact with your suppliers and their roadmaps on when they plan to integrate such services and how they want to do it. Because I think the possibilities are endless, but it's of course, it would be a pity if you start to invest a lot of effort to build all these kind of services if they next also are provided by the company that you're relying on for requirement management, for example.
Mm-hmm. So do you have an example of a requirement tool you already started to work on, or are you using one by a supplier, or what is behind that?
No, not yet in that sense. But if we just make it more closer to home, right? So if you, so I think Microsoft it's integrating it all over the place, right? So yeah, of course, it would be handier if you just rely on I don't know, Excel with Gen AI capability, Word with Gen AI capability, rather than developing your own tools and implementations. But I think that the question is, so is it usable for us if it's there? So you really need to engage on a strategic level, I think, with those suppliers to see, okay, how are you looking at this? How is it usable for us? And then decide, okay, should we build this ourselves, or do we rely on a third party, knowing that it might not be perfect, but okay, you might get there in the end a lot faster if you do.
How difficult is it to build robust AI solutions from your point of view?
That is quite the question. I think it is.
It sounds easier than it is.
Yeah, and I also wonder, so how robust should it be, right? So with those Gen AI cases, how robust should it be, right? In the end, I think the target is to, for example, increase the efficiency with which an operator can work, but how much wrong answers are you willing to accept?
Yeah, 80% or 10%.
Yeah, is it 80? Is it 90? Is it 95? Should it be all the way? What I like is to early on, also already ideally with the end users, to have that conversation, because I think it can vary a lot from application to application. Yeah, what that robustness level or accuracy level should be. And I think that is really important, because before you know it, you're developing something, you're really gold plating maybe something which in the end makes it become completely unusable. And I don't believe that all use cases require it to be 100% robust. And I think it's also something that can grow over time, right? So also on that journey from, let's say, having an assistant up to complete autonomous decision making, this will change. And I think if you approach it that way, and you can do more stepwise automation, so you introduce the technology that generates basically experience. It also generates, I think, more trust on both sides. So also at our customer in making use of it. I think from that point onwards, it's easier to gain more robustness and go towards full autonomy sooner than if you say, no, it has to be 100% accurate always. So getting, I think, the technology into the field at an acceptable level, with, I think, also a customer that understands this, I think gets automation happens sooner than if you don't. So I think defines also for me robustness. Yeah, what level do you want to? How robust do you want to be?
I want to come to a little more internal perspective, because the Netherlands also lacks specialists in the field of AI. Do you make domain experts fit, or do you train them to develop smaller solutions? Let's call it AutoML tools, or anything like that. Is it on your agenda?
Well, at the moment, we are mainly focused on identifying, also as part of our strategy, what are the main AI capabilities that we need to get more in-house.
Okay, and tell me, what are the main capabilities?
Well, I think a lot revolves around predictive maintenance. A lot also revolves around enhancing this productivity and effectivity of operators we have in the field. Also a lot around machine vision, so this item inspection, classification, and then I think we have this scope of optimization. So optimization of flows of the demands, the discussion we had earlier on.
So a reinforcement approach for every warehouse, and it will go automatically.
Yeah, exactly. So the dream.
Yeah,
right.
We talk about dreams at the end. Yeah,
yeah. And I think that is the type of capabilities where I think we can make huge steps. And then it's about indeed finding the right talent again, and training our engineers to do it. And also, I think you need to look at the competences you have, because AI potentially affects everything. From a system integration perspective, when we, for example, work with third parties that maybe supply that classification algorithm based on AI, then also I think other competences that we have, so for example, in architecture and integration, need to be more aware of AI, its opportunities, its risks, and how to integrate it in order to, in the end, make it make it into a working product. So I think on the one hand, that is what we're doing at the moment. You need to look at what capabilities do I need that best basically provide customer value, and how do I actually realize that with those capabilities I can also build a product that is integratable into a system. So the competences that you need to realize it.
When we are talking about AI and new models, we talk about large language models. Maybe the industry needs small language models, or smaller or smarter. We always talk about deploying then, because you need to deploy it on, I don't know, on a PLC, on a server next to the shop floor, or do you need GPUs in the warehouses, in the airport? What is your opinion on that? Do we need more GPUs in the warehouses? Do we need smaller, smarter language models? What is your opinion?
Well, I always go by learn what is hard to model and model what is hard to learn, which is, I think, in the end, the most efficient solution. And next with that, I think your deployment architecture can also be organized in that way, right? So I think also what you can do, for example, on the edge, do it there. So I think it will in the end be always a mix of them both. So doing it really close to the equipment on the edge, or doing it centralized, and also even up to the point where you bring it completely remote and put it in the cloud. And I think again there also the discussion with the customer for us is really important. So what is his or her view on this? And I think also there we noticed that customers take various approaches. So some are really focused still on on-premise solutions, others are much more already working towards the cloud. So I think that is also a very important aspect to take into account when you start doing product development.
So what I hear, you haven't ordered GPUs in large quantities yet, right?
No, and I think especially that type of solutions, also there we often also rely on third parties still. So it can be that it even goes via them, but up to now not yet indeed. But as said, I think the majority of the AI that we're at the moment using is a lot of that is still in exploration phase. So I think the most mature applications, and I think you will see it maybe even industry wide, will be on, I think, predictive maintenance and these machine vision objects that you have in the field to classify or inspect things, as in customer facing, right? So because I do believe that there's a lot of things going on, of course, also in data analysis, which is happening also more internally. But I think those are the more dominant use cases also in the field. But it's not industry-wide accepted. I don't think there's a lot of Gen AI, for example, going on at customers at the moment. I think a lot of this is still in an exploratory phase.
So you are planning your warehouses, and we have already talked about reinforcement learning and all the nice stories we hear about organizing by themselves and the process and stuff like that. But what about AI-based simulation, not to simulate once again, using the old simulations, building an AI-based simulation for warehouses, for processes? Is this an option? Is it a dream? Is it a perspective? What is your opinion on that?
I think you're making the transition now to dreams, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what we see is indeed that, and that is, I would say, indeed the dream, is that if we have digital twin representations of our systems, if we can then use AI to put forward various scenarios, basically. So to do some forward playing of various scenarios to solve certain operational disturbances and have it then pick the best one. I think that would be the dream, because this is, at the moment, we do, of course, a lot of simulation, a lot of emulation in our systems, but often these tools, models that we use, they're not yet used throughout the lifetime of a system. And I think that in the end is the dream. If you can build it up in such a way that those twins evolve over time and you can connect AI-powered services to it, I think it would unlock tremendous value. Because essentially this is, I think, really core also to our capability of a system integrator, that from a simulation, basically we already start in the very early phases when a customer approaches us with requirements. We start with building simulation models to see, okay, how can we best fulfill these customer requirements, and throughout the life cycle we keep building basically virtual representations of those systems in various ways, but they're not always connected throughout the flow from selling all the way up to delivering, and in the end maintaining such a system. So creating those living digital twins would be, I think, a huge step forward. And if you then have those AI capabilities on top of that, that is how I also would foresee the control room of the future be looking like.
What else do you dream of?
Many things. I will go on a holiday next week. No, I'm kidding.
In cases of industrial AI.
Well, what I dream of in that sense is that what I dream of is to do these kind of explorations really together with customers. What I mentioned also, I think earlier on, is to get into this mode with customers and all the other business capabilities at Van der Lande to do or to reach this sort of stepwise automation. So I would call myself a technology realist, but finding what is real about technology, I think, only happens the moment that you put it into practice, that you put it in the customer environment. But this is, of course, one of the hardest things to do, because that customer environment is working with demands on reliability, on accuracy, that often it's hard to judge, will it be possible, yes or no. So creating such an innovation ecosystem in which you can do this with customers that understand this, and also all the connected processes on our end to do it, I think that would be fantastic. And then I think also, maybe in line with that, it would also be great, like if you would have now a clean a sheet of paper, you take the latest technologies, it would be a dream if you could say, let's bring some people in our company together, and start building basically this warehouse of the future, or airport of the future, or parcel distribution center of the future, from the ground up. Because I think one other thing is that we always need to deal with is legacy, right?
Exactly.
And being able to start with a clean sheet of paper, I think, would also be a dream, right? Knowing how rapidly technologies develop today and what could be possible if we just forget about the legacy for a moment and do such an initiative, that would also be a dream.
Bas, let's start with your vacation.
Yeah.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, and then I can dream a bit more.
Yeah, you can dream a bit more. Enjoy it. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to talk to you. All the best and greetings to the Netherlands.
Likewise, Robert. Thanks for the talk.
Robotik in der Industrie. Der Podcast mit Helmut Schmidt und Robert Weber.